Carl Jung discovered two hidden signs that reveal a person's true nature, and almost no one sees them. Miss them, and you'll keep trusting the wrong people. Master them, and you'll see through masks instantly. In love, at work, even in yourself. This is how you stop guessing who's safe and start knowing. The first sign is what Jung called shadow projection. And once you learn to read it, people stop being mysteries. They become maps. Here's the principle. Jung found that the psyche does not delete what it can't accept. It hides it. And what we bury in the shadow doesn't disappear. It leaks. It slips through our judgments, our obsessions, our disgust. This is why the fastest way to see someone's buried self is to watch what they attack with disproportionate intensity. The hatred gives them away. Rage at selfish people often hides their own buried hunger for freedom. Scorn for weakness often masks their own unresolved fear of collapse. Every accusation is a mirror turned outward. And here's the key. Projection is involuntary. It bypasses the persona completely. People can fake humility, fake empathy, fake virtue, but they can't fake what disgusts or fascinates them. That's why projection is so revealing. It's their unconscious speaking unfiltered. There's a second layer most people miss. Positive projection. Jung warned that idealizing someone as flawless isn't insight, it's exile. They're seeing their own disowned strengths glowing in someone else. That too good to be true pedestal moment isn't proof of perfection. It's proof of a buried self trying to return. And here's where this turns from curiosity into danger. When you can see these polarities, the traits someone demonizes and the ones they glorify, you're looking at the architecture of their psyche. That architecture predicts how they'll behave under pressure, and the moment you see it, their charm, their words, their status stop meaning anything. You're watching the operating system underneath. But this is where it cuts both ways. Because the second you see their shadow map, you'll see your own. Start here. Choose one judgment you fire off without thinking. The thing you condemn instantly in others. Write it down. Then ask, where does this live in me? If your stomach tightens, you've found it. That's the part of you you've exiled, and it's controlling more of your behavior than you think. Jung warned that what stays unconscious controls your life from the dark, and you will call it destiny. And this is the real power of shadow mapping. It's not just about seeing others. It's about disarming the parts of yourself that sabotage you from behind the curtain. But projection only shows you contents. It shows what's inside someone, not who's steering it. To see their real character, you have to watch what survives when the mask collapses. When their persona fractures under stress and the curated image fails. That's the second sign. And once you see it, you stop being fooled forever. The second sign is what Jung described as the collapse of the persona under pressure. Every person builds a persona, a curated image meant to gain acceptance and shield the psyche. It's not fake, it's survival camouflage, but it's fragile. And when pressure hits, it cracks. That crack is where the real self bleeds through. This is the moment most people miss, and it's the cleanest way to see someone's character in real time. Watch what happens when the mask slips. Jung saw a pattern. When someone's persona fails, when they're criticized, caught making a mistake, or lose status, they default to 4 stress defenses: attack, deflect, withdraw, or integrate. Most collapse into the first 3. They get sharp, defensive, sarcastic, or they spin excuses, flood you with distractions, or they go silent, disappear, pretend it never happened. These aren't random reactions. They are reflexes carved into the psyche long before adulthood. Under pressure, the mask drops and their real coping structure emerges. And here's the tell. People can rehearse virtue, but they can't rehearse pressure. Polish melts fast. Persona upkeep burns enormous energy, and stress drains that fuel instantly. What's left is their default wiring. This is why the stress moment is more revealing than years of performance. In one unguarded instant, you see what all the charm was built to hide. Start watching for this. The shift in tone, the micro-freeze in their eyes, the sudden drop in warmth. That's the persona tearing. And now here's where it gets critical. Because the fourth pattern, integration, is rare. When someone under pressure owns their mistake, absorbs feedback, or asks real questions instead of defending, you're seeing something Jung called ego strength, the ability to let the persona fracture without collapsing with it. That response predicts growth capacity. It means their self isn't welded to their image. They can bend without breaking. Most people never reach this, and this is the difference between appearance and character. So if you want to test someone's real center, don't watch their calm moments. Watch their fracture points when they're criticized, when they lose status, when things stop going their way. That's the only moment you're seeing their psyche unfiltered. And here's where these two signs, shadow projection and persona stress, fuse together like X-rays. Because when someone is under pressure, their projections spike, their shadow starts leaking fast, the mask fails, and what they've hidden pours out. If you can read both tells at once, what they project and how they respond when their persona collapses, you'll see more of them in 5 minutes than most people do in 5 years. But this leads to the most dangerous question of all. What do you do with that power? Because once you can read people this precisely, you can't unsee it, and the temptation to use it will be real. That's where we go next. The integration test, where Jung drew the ethical line between using this insight to control or to connect. Now that you can see the two signs, shadow projection and persona stress cracks, you hold a kind of psychological X-ray. But here's the part almost no one warns you about. This power is double-edged. Once you can see people's unconscious material this clearly, the temptation is to use it, to steer them, predict them, control them. And that's where Jung drew a hard line. He warned, insight without ethics becomes manipulation. So he built a test, not for others, but for you. It's what I call the integration test, and it works like a pressure gauge on the psyche. Here's how it works. When you notice someone projecting, don't confront. Reflect it back gently. Mirror what they said, calmly, without attack. You sound really frustrated with people who do that. Do you ever catch yourself doing it too? Then watch their response. If they get hostile, defensive, mocking, they're not ready. Their ego is fused with the projection. They need the illusion intact to feel stable. Jung would place them in the unconscious tier, driven by their shadow without knowing it. If they pause, shift, deflect, change subject, they're in the aware but defended tier. They glimpse their shadow, but can't face it yet. But if they get curious, if they say, maybe I've never thought about it like that, you're looking at someone in the early stages of integration. That's rare, because it means they can metabolize their shadow instead of projecting it. This one reflex, curiosity in place of defense, is the cleanest predictor of psychological growth capacity Jung ever identified. And here's why this matters. People's real character is measured not by how little shadow they carry, but by how they respond when it's shown to them. So this is how you read them without harming them. You don't rip the mask off. You just tap the edges and see if it shatters or bends. And now the warning. Once you see who can integrate and who can't, your relationships will start to split. Some will harden against you because your clarity threatens their masks. Others will open because they were waiting for someone safe enough to be real with. This is where your discernment sharpens. And it's also where the danger spikes. Because if you don't anchor this ethically, you'll become cold, detached, predatory without noticing. Jung saw this happen to analysts who became so skilled at reading projections that they stopped relating. They became observers, not participants. Judges instead of humans. That's the trap. You're not here to dissect people. You're here to see them and still choose connection. And this is where everything flips. Because if you use these signs with integrity, they won't make you distant. They'll make you fearless. But to reach that, you have to run this entire framework inward on yourself. Because there's one last reveal coming, and it will be the hardest to face. You've learned how to read projections. You've learned how to watch the persona crack. But if you stop here, you risk becoming what Jung warned about, a surgeon who never operates on themselves. The more accurate you get at reading others, the more lethal your blind spots become, because your shadow will use this skill to hide. You'll dissect everyone else to avoid seeing your own fracture lines. Here's the self-protocol: how to dismantle your own illusions before they control you. Step 1. Shadow journal. Pick one judgment you fire off with heat. Write it down. Then write the opposite, what you over-idealize. These are your disowned poles. Naming them collapses the projection. Step 2. Trigger trace. Track emotional spikes. Defensiveness, contempt, obsession. Mark them. This might be mine. Where emotion is too sharp for the situation, shadow is leaking. Step 3. Persona stress drill. Review a moment you felt exposed. Ask, what mask was I protecting? What did I fear they'd see? Every time you survive this reflection without shame, the mask loses power. Step 4. Integration question. When challenged, ask, what might be true here, even if it's uncomfortable? This stops projection midstream. The ego can't attack outward while looking inward. Do this relentlessly. The mask loosens. Your energy returns. People's facades stop hooking you, and that's when the fracture appears. As you shed the old performance, your relationships will start to split. Some will resist, others will rise to meet the real you. That's where we go next. Relational recalibration, and how to survive it without hardening. As you integrate your shadow, your relationships will split. This isn't failure, it's recalibration. People bonded to your mask won't recognize you. They were attached to the agreeable caretaker, the quiet fixer, the emotional buffer. When that persona disappears, they panic. Some will push back, guilt you, test your edges, bait you into over-explaining. Others will fade, not because you became cruel, but because your clarity ends the old transaction. At first, the silence feels like loss. It's not. It's space, the ground where real connection grows. Here, you build new rules. Only reciprocity survives. Intensity does not equal intimacy. Need does not equal love. Drama does not equal depth. Your nervous system stops chasing chaos and starts scanning for stability. And the people who stay feel different, grounded, steady, unthreatened by your strength. This is the transition. Empathy stops being duty and becomes choice. Next comes the final phase, the integrated state, where your perception stays razor sharp without consuming you. This is the stage most never reach, not because it's impossible, but because it feels unnatural at first. Living without guilt. Your nervous system has recalibrated. You're no longer scanning for danger. You're scanning for alignment. Chaos doesn't hook you. Urgency doesn't impress you. Neediness doesn't flatter you, because your worth is no longer borrowed from being needed. It's rooted in your own presence. This is what Jung called individuation's endgame, becoming a whole psychological system unto yourself. Your selfhood no longer flexes to fit the room. It stays intact, and the room adapts. Empathy is now choiceful. You can step into someone's storm without absorbing it. You can care without carrying. You can leave without guilt. And paradoxically, your compassion sharpens because it's clean now. No hidden agenda, no desperation to be seen as good. Your life gets quieter and infinitely more honest. This is the integrated state. Soft, but not porous. Compassionate, but not consumed. Available, but never at the cost of yourself. And this is the moment you realize What you once called empathy was just survival. Now, it's freedom.